Welcome to our webcast for tonight. Good evening, magandang gabi kung nasa Pinas kayo. Ako ngayon, I'm in Abu Dhabi. My name is Samantha. Just call me Sam. And I'll be your host for tonight's pre-webcast show. So welcome again. Welcome to the second Novice Webcast. For tonight, we will be putting the spotlight on mental health. This is a topic that many Filipino families shy away from, but we're doing this in the hopes that it will help you cope up with the psychological effects triggered by the pandemic. So, everyone, join us in a bit in this much needed discussion on mental health in our second webcast entitled Sorry, it's the other side, cabin fever, coping with stress and anxiety in the So we have brought for you a very special set of panelists to share their insights on psychological first aid, or what we call PFA, in the virtual world. This is psychological resilience in the time of pandemic, the art of sublimation, and more. But guys, please don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts. We got our IG account, we got our Twitter account, and also our Instagram. So it's very easy to find us, guys. Just go to www.noviceph.com. So later on, I will plug in the other social media accounts for you. But, before the main event, the main part of this show, relax muna tayo, okay? So you can have your drink beside you, can have your pet beside you, your family. Guys, share nyo naman yung namin, itong live namin para may share natin yung insights natin for tonight. So hopefully, with this, we will be able to help you cope with the stress that this pandemic has been bringing to you, perhaps, or to someone you know. Okay, so chill muna tayo, relax muna tayo. We have with us a very special duo tonight. They are from Quezon City, and obviously they love music. They have performed at venues such as Jess and Pat's for UP Fair. So kung na-try niyong pumunta sa UP Fair, it's called Kalye Tunes. You might have seen them, you might have heard of them in Spotify. They have their first single there, and also in other digital platforms such as iTunes and Amazon. So without further ado, I bring to you Des and Del. Here they are.
Hello po.
Hi!
Hello po.
Hi, twins!
Hello po.
Tell us again,
Hello po.
nasa Quezon City kayo ngayon, di ba?
Po.
Alright, okay. So, itong first song nyo, tungkol saan to?
Yung you po ba yan?
Yes.
Yung first
yung
song po
you.
namin, yung pinakaunang original song na ginawa po namin.
Awesome.
About
And
po
this...
siya sa love. Opo.
Ano pa ba?
Gender neutral. Opo.
Wow. So, sige, papakinggan namin yan para malaman namin. Okay. So, go ahead.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Please, yung camera. Okay. Meron na po ito sa Spotify. You with that dreamy smile, you captured this heart of mine, and I know I don't know if I should go, but with you I'm home. You with that soft low voice, making no sound at all, but I know all your thoughts, so please don't go, 'cause with you I'm sure, 'cause you So let me say you're wonderful. Let me break all of your walls, 'cause I do wanna live my life with you. You with those sad, sad eyes, telling me those sweet, sweet lies. You know I know that you hide behind those walls, but you're wrong. Please come home, 'cause you said I do. So let me say you're wonderful. Let me stay. Let me clean up all your wants, 'cause I do wanna live my life with you. Let me say you're wonderful. Let me break all of your walls. Let me clean up all your walls. Let me stay. 'Cause you said I do. So let me say you're wonderful. Let me stay, 'cause you're worth fighting for, and I too wanna live my life with you. Available na po sa Spotify yung song na yun.
Yay!
Ayan.
So hashtag sana all, ganun. Sana all ganyan kaganda voice.
Next song.
Eh, doesn't that
Hashtag
before you...
para gender neutral.
Wow. Yes. So before you go to your next song, matanong ko lang. So this song, yung Arms, is already in Spotify, right? So we can hear it on Spotify, tama ba?
Yes po.
Yay! And well,
Yes po.
teka lang, may tanong ako. Paano nyo nalaman na sorry, I should ask, since when kayo kumakanta together? When did you start singing together?
Grade 10 po kami sa San Francisco High School. Sa isang banda. Opo.
See, but before that, like at home, ganyan, since bata kayo, do you always sing together? Have you always sang together?
Siya po yung nauna. Ako po talaga yung kumakas. Parang sumunod lang po ako, ganun.
Okay. So, nasunod ka na lang. Pero ikaw yung guitarist, ha? Wait lang. Tell me who's Des and who's Del, please. Which one is Des and which one is
Ako
Del?
po si Del.
Alright.
Siya si Des.
And you're
si
Des.
Des.
Awesome. Okay. So, guys, again, support natin sila Des and Del. You can hear their songs in Spotify. You can stream them in Spotify. Follow them on Twitter and Instagram. And guys, speaking of following, follow nyo din po kami sa aming Novice Magazine PH. That's at Novice Magazine PH sa Instagram po. And for Twitter, just that's Twitter is at Novice Mag PH. And make sure to have your copy of our second Novice Mag. It's still up for pre-order. Just go to www.noviceph.com. It's now on your screen. Just go there. The steps are very easy. Have a copy of the compilation of creative stuff. You can have it at home for the very, very low price of it's on the website. All right. So let's have it. Let's have the second song of our lovely duo. Go ahead, Desendel, your second song.
Okay. Thank you po. So
Alright.
yung second song po namin, cover song na po siya. Cover song. Yung Arms. Arms, okay. Arms po yung title. Pero nakalimutan ko sino yung band na tumugtog. Basta search nyo na lang po. Arms po yung title. Pero wait, hanapin ko po mamaya kung sino yung kumanta. Pero yun, dahil nga po, mental health po yung topic natin ngayon. Iniaalay po namin ito para sa lahat. Especially ngayong quarantine. Okay. What can I give that is all for you? My heart's no good cause it splits in two. What can I give that is all for you? These arms are all I have, but I'll hold you like I do love you. But I'll hold you like I do love you. What can I give that is all for you? My heart's no good cause it splits in two. What can I give that is all for you? These arms are all I have, but I'll hold you like I do love you. But I'll hold you like I do love you. Layo mo sa akin. But I'll hold you like I do love you. But I'll hold you like I do love you. Okay, next song is OPM naman po tayo. OPM.
Desendel.
So, para sa mga,
Okay.
well, yan, pakinggan na lang natin.
Okay. So go ahead.
This song is by Eraserheads, tama? Isa lang naman yung message na to eh. Huwag kang matakot. Okay.
Okay.
Ay, okay. Okay. Huwag kang matakot, di mo ba alam, nandito lang ako sa iyong tabi, di kita pababayaan kailanman. At kung ikaw ay mahulog sa bangin, ay sasaluhin kita. Huwag kang matakot na matulog mag-isa, kasama mo naman ako. Huwag kang matakot na umibig at bumuha, kasama mo naman ako. Huwag kang matakot, Huwag kang matakot. ang pag-ibig na hawak mo sa iyong kamay. Ikaw ang Diyos at Reyna ng iyong mundo. Matakot sila sa iyo. Huwag kang matakot na matulog mag-isa, kasama mo naman ako. Huwag kang matakot na umibig at bumuhay, kasama mo naman ako. Huwag kang matakot na magmutang pangat, kasama mo naman ako. Huwag kang matakot sa hindi mo pa makita, kasama mo naman ako. Huwag kang matakot, kang matakot. Huwag kang matakot, di mo ba alam, nandito lang ako sa iyong tabi. Di kita pababayaan kailanman. Huwag kang matakot, di kita pababayaan kailanman. Huwag kang matakot, di kita pababayaan kailanman.
Awesome!
Thank you,
You know,
po
guys,
ulit.
ladies, you give off the vibe na para akong nasa room with Moira and KZ.
Ay.
Actually, yeah. And guys, before we forget, let us not forget, of course, we want to thank our awesome sponsors po. Shout out po kina KD Cadabona, maraming salamat. Pearl Viernes Ludan, if you're watching, we're so very thankful for you. Chantal Tayaban, Rosel Batara, the Cult of the Self, for our poster, for our awesome poster. And from all over the world, we got people from all over the world who have made this event possible. So maraming salamat po. If I'm not
Thank you
mistaken,
po.
we got people from, thank you so much. We got people from New York. We also have friends from all the way from Thailand.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm right here in Abu Dhabi. So, yeah, from UAE. And of course, from the Philippines. So, all over the Philippines. Maraming salamat po. And again, let me just remind you, if kakapasok nyo lang po sa live show, nandito po tayo ngayon sa pre-show. Nandito po tayo with Des and Del. Again, you can catch them on stream Spotify. You can stream their song on Spotify. Mamaya po, chika pa sila with you. And of course, since naka-live po tayo sa Facebook, share nyo po yung aming stream. Ayan. Again, we are tackling mental health issues in our webcast for tonight called Cabin Fever. So if you know someone, or you can someone who can benefit from it, whether it's friend or family, someone you know who can benefit from this webcast, it's all free and it's all for you po. So Des and Del, since eto nga nasa pandemic tayo, anong pinagkakabalahan nyo ngayon? Tell us. Pinagkakabalahan nyo ngayon. Sa akin, busy. Netflix. Yeah.
Netflix. Tapos, iniisip po namin yung mga requirements sa school. Tsaka, gumagawa po kami ng songs.
Yes, of course. Buti at meron yung na yan, hobby? Ano na ba siya sa inyo, hobby? Do you plan on turning this into a full-on profession, ganyan? Like,
Hobby. Hobby pa lang po.
Hobby. Alright, hobby. Cool. Okay. Ano ba yung tanong ko kanina? Ano yung experience nyo ngayong pandemic na hindi nyo malilimutan? Meron ba? Or is everything just
Ako
new
yung,
and you're just going with the flow?
Yung po, sobrang chill sa ACADS.
Oh, wow.
Minsan
Yes
lang
to
maging chill
ano.
sa akad. Opo, minsan lang po kasi mag-chill sa akad. So parang, ayun.
Oh,
Ako
I
yung
see.
makulong with family.
Yeah.
Makulong
Oh, by the
with
way, can you tell us ano bang course na tinitake nyo pala, Dezendel? What are you
Yes,
taking? I'm still
geodetic
in
engineering
college.
po.
Cool. Okay, so
Yes
you're
po.
into
Sa,
viewing. Both of you. Sorry, again?
yes po. Magkaklase po kami.
What? Talaga? Hindi na kayo naghiwalay
Opo. Since kinder. Since sa chan ni
What?
mommy.
Grabe. Baka mas kilala nyo pa yung isa't isa kaysa sa nanay nyo. I mean, mas kilala nyo pa yung isa't isa kaysa yung nanay nyo. Mas kilala yung ano. Hmm. Or not. So would you say your best friends? Would you say your best friends?
Opo. Parang yung classmate mo po na dinadala sa bahay, ganun. Opo. Para pakainin ng pansit canton. Parang ganun.
So, okay. Hang on. It's like I'm lost. I have to hang on. Okay. So, Des and Del, is there a new song we should
Yes.
look forward to?
Ngayon na po.
Really?
Susunod na song po namin. First time po namin kakantahin sa first time po namin kakantahin ngayon. Susunod na song.
Okay, so if you don't mind, go ahead with the song. Guys, let's listen to Des and Del.
Okay. Thank you po. Thank you po. Itong song na to ay pinamagatang Hinga. Para lang ma-remind tayo na nagkakaroon talaga ng oras na down, super down tayo. Pero kailangan lang natin huminga. Sige, go lang. Yeah. Mukha mo'y
Sorry. Hi, Des and Del. Hang on. I'm gonna ask you to stop. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna ask them to stop. Why? Because we gotta save the very last bit of them for the end of the show. So, kung narinig niyo yung first little half ng song nila, you gotta hang on. Okay, guys? Okay? Chill lang kayo dyan. Okay? Okay. But, di ba, nakakawala ng stress. So, thank you again, Des and Del. And, we're looking forward to the last song. We're gonna look forward to that last song. Meantime, ladies and gentlemen, before actually we will see again these two beautiful ladies right here, Des and Del, before this whole show ends. Okay, so again, just sit tight, relax there. Okay, but before we move on to our main event, Des and Del, meron ba kayong gustong i-promote? Meron ba anything at all? This is your time, and then we will see you again in a bit.
YouTube.
Okay,
at Dezendel po sa Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Tapos Des and Del sa YouTube tsaka sa Facebook. Ayun. So, subscribe lang po kayo sa amin. Tapos yan, yung narinig nating original song kanina na You, nasa Spotify na siya. So, stream. Malapit na po mag 100K. Yay!
Yay! 100K! Road to 100K! Yes. Let's help Des and Del on their road to 100K, guys. Let's support our locals. Kita nyo naman, rinig nyo naman kung gaano ka-amazing and nakaka-relax itong dalawang lovely ladies na to. So, let's support them. Let's support everyone that we can so that they can bloom, they can shine in their own way. So, again, Des and Del, we'll see you in a little while, okay? So, for now, hang in the background. I'll see you. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Ayan, so guys, after chilling, nakapag-relax na sana kayo. Ako, nako, na-relax ako kina Des and Del. At sana kayo rin. Um, this is the point where I have to turn over the virtual mic to our wonderful moderator. So, may I introduce to you our online and communications editor here in Novice. She is currently a senior educator at an early learning center in Australia. I have known her since we were elementary, I think. Until now, I miss her so much. She's so far away, but I'm so thankful that now I have the chance also to see her. So, without further ado, let me turn over the mic to Miss Rebecca. Becca!
Hi, Sam. Those are really sweet words.
Hi!
That's true. I just want to let everyone know. Good evening. That is so true. We've known each other since primary school, and I miss her too. I miss you, Miss Sam. Thank you for doing a great job tonight. We'll see you again some other time,
Yeah,
and stay on the stream.
I will.
Yes,
Okay. See you later.
see ya. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's webcast. I hope you enjoyed the pre-show from Des and Del. Tonight we are going to tackle an issue or a societal concern that we are facing right now in this time. So this is entitled Cabin Fever, Coping with Stress and Anxiety in the Time of Pandemic. So as you know, we are really faced with a huge ordeal at the moment with people staying at home, losing their jobs, possibly losing people, loved ones, and that's why we at Novice felt that it's really important for us to use this platform to encourage others, to increase awareness, and to reach out to those who might need this encouragement. So I just would like to once again welcome everyone who are joining us and who are just joining us. Please don't forget to share the link so that other people, friends and families will be able to um, listen to our panelists who gave their time so freely and so graciously tonight to share their professional views and thoughts about stress and anxiety and how we can cope and understand it better. So, again, my name is Rebecca, and tonight I'll be the moderator. So the way it's going to happen is we're going to ask questions about specific topics, and then we'll direct it to our respective panelists, and they will respond as they please. So let me introduce to you our first panelist, a first member of the panel, in no particular order. The first one is Beatrice Anley. She is a psychology graduate at De La Salle University. She is a mental health advocate and a certified mental health first responder. She is the person behind your local mental health advocate on Facebook. She is also the interim vice chairperson for internal affairs at Youth for Mental Health Coalition Incorporated. Excuse me. Everyone, please warmly welcome Bea. Hi, Bea. Are you there?
Hello, hello everyone.
Hi,
Hi
thanks for joining
Rebecca.
us
Thank you.
tonight, Bea.
Thank you for the
So we look.
wonderful introduction.
Oh, that's all good. Much deserved. Thank you for the work that you do. So tonight we have the privilege of hearing Bea and her thoughts and her take on some of our questions. Our next panelist is Asa Buana and is a visual artist based in Manila and graduated with a psychology degree from De La Salle University. He is currently pursuing the arts through regular participation in competitions, exhibitions, and other projects throughout the local art community. Please welcome Antonio Pastoriza, and he prefers to be called Antonio. So, hi, Antonio.
Hello,
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. That's good to hear. Thank you for coming and gracing us with your presence. We look forward to your thoughts and feedback.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
That's great to hear. All right. We now would like to introduce our next panelist, Pearl Via Sullivan Caballes. Pearl is a registered Mom Pearl, as I would like to call her, because she wasn't directly my uni professor, but I just cannot take not calling her Mom Pearl. Mom Pearl is a registered counselor and licensed psychometrician, currently in charge of the Student Affairs and Services for Women in St. Mary's University, Bayambong. She has over 15 years of experience working with adolescents and young adults. She is currently pursuing her PhD in clinical psychology at Far Eastern University in Manila. She is a recognized mental health first responder. Please welcome Mom Pearl. Mom Pearl, are you there?
Hi, everyone.
Hello
Thank you,
po.
Becca, for the introduction. You really had to call me Mom.
Yes, I have to. Hindi ko po matanggap. Pearl,
Okay,
parang mali.
okay,
Yeah.
hi.
Please welcome Mom Pearl. Mom Pearl, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My
And
pleasure.
we look forward to your thoughts and knowledge. Ayan. Practice-based knowledge. Okay. Now we would like to welcome our fourth panelist, Luis Angelo Villaruel. Dr. Luis Villaruel is a psychologist with a master's in clinical psychology from the University of Santo Tomas. He currently practices as a consultant psychologist that provides psychological assessment, counseling, and psychotherapy to his clients. He is a volunteer at the UST Psychotrauma Clinic, providing support and counseling for individuals affected by psychological trauma. Everyone, please welcome Sir Luis. Doc Luis. Hello po. Welcome to the stream, sir. Thank you for coming and joining us. Sir Luis, di po namin kayo marinig, sir.
Sorry, naka-mute pala ako.
I was like, oh. Welcome po to the stream.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Thank you po, sir. And last but not the least, please welcome Dr. Herc Sabas. He is a registered psychologist, guidance counselor, and psychometrician. He is currently employed as a psychologist at the National Center for Mental Health. He is also a part-time professorial lecturer at Far Eastern University Graduate School and San Beda College Alabang Graduate School. Hi, Sir Herc. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here. Here po.
Awesome. Rebecca na lang po, sir. Thank you po.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Becca. Okay.
Thank you po. Thank you for your time. And just to let everyone know, while I was doing the pre-briefing with our lovely panelists, they were also humble. I was asking them, oh, how do I address you po, sir? Doc. And they're like, nako, first name na lang. Hindi ko po kaya. Siguro kami ni Bea at ni Antonio, mga medyo around the same age group. Okay lang, no, guys? Okay lang, first name basis.
Same age group pa rin naman natin.
Oh, pala. We're all young at heart. We're all the same age group. Tama po. All right. Well, guys, hopefully with the pre-show, everyone, like Sam was saying, was able to relax and sort of take it easy and lay back because tonight we do have a pretty big topic to tackle. So like we said a while ago with our panelists, it's a very broad topic, but tonight our goal is to kind of just touch on it and hopefully make it easy to digest and encourage and inform our listeners for tonight. So once again, I encourage everyone to share the link on the stream. We thank everyone who has been so supportive to make our issue number 2 possible and possible. So we'll go ahead and start with the questions. So like I said, we'll have 3 topics, and each topic will have questions where I will direct the questions to the specific member of the panel for them to answer. And then later on, after the panel discussion, we'll have some questions for them to answer, and anyone can kind of just answer kung sino po ang willing. All right, so we'll move on to our first one. So our first topic is about psychological first aid in the virtual world. So honestly, this was my first time to hear about it. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners at the moment will be very much informed and will widen their knowledge about it. Sir Luis, would you be able to define to us, kind of briefly and concisely, what is psychological first aid? What does it mean?
Sure, of course. So, psychological first aid, or PFA, is a humane supportive response to a fellow human who is suffering and needs support in response to a crisis event. So, it's not so much of a technique, but rather a guideline on how to talk and how to help distressed individuals. So, not everyone, considering right now we're in experiencing a global pandemic, not necessarily everyone will need or even want PFA. And those who do get PFA, sometimes PFA alone is not enough because this is just the first step usually. So PFA itself has 7 themes that you go through. The first one being that you provide practical care and support for the people. So you acknowledge that you're there to help. The second is you assess their needs and their concerns. So you really won't know how to help them unless you ask them and you find out what will help them get better. The third being we help them address their basic needs. So usually individuals who were hit, well, it includes most of us, no? But to those who were more affected, they already have a hard time addressing their basic needs. So sometimes they just need to have a boost of help. The fourth theme being that we listen to the people when they talk, and but we don't pressure them to talk itself. So listening to the people, it's basically what we have to do, right? It's not necessarily about what we say, but it's more about what they need. That's usually what comes out. Sorry, that's usually what they need. So that's what they're going to tell us. Next, we have to comfort them and we help them feel calm. So if applicable, we tell them that they're in a safe location or they're in a safe space, and that we're there to help. The sixth one being that we have to help them connect to information. So as we mentioned a while ago, these people might not have access to their basic needs, so that's food, shelter, safety. So we help them connect with the proper channels that might be able to help them secure those needs. And lastly, we protect them from further harm. So we don't expose them to the crisis event again, nor do we try to attempt to do debriefing, which is attempting to um, make sense of what happened itself, right? So why is it important? And I think it's important right now because, as I mentioned a while ago, we're facing a global pandemic, right? So this has affected the lives of everyone in the world, down from um people in the government to civilians. So depending on a variety of factors such as age, health, social support, previous experience with problems, and the severity of how they experience the crisis, some people may need more help than others in addressing their needs.
Thank you, Sir Luis, for that comprehensive explanation. I think that was an overarching term. I think from what I gather, like ang dami niyang in-address. Like yung first and foremost is yung initial response for the people. Sir Herc, what would
Yes,
you like
ma'am.
to add to this? Like what is PFA in terms of? So this is the view of the
Yeah.
part of the psychologist. Like what is it like? How can people say, for example, like me, like what does
Mm.
PFA mean to me, like a commoner? Like what will it look like to me?
Actually, well said yung explanation ni Sir Luis, no? So, we'll go back lang. Actually, we need to stabilize, no? Usually, in addition to the explanation earlier, stabilize symptoms, usually. If there would be some symptoms, particularly, in order for them to return to functional capacity. So, just like now, there is a global pandemic. We cannot do psychological first aid in a traditional manner. So, most likely, the government or even NCMH, we come up with interventions such as the crisis hotline to provide psychological first aid. So usually it's 1553. So right now we are changing the common guard, no? Change of the guard. So I think we are moving to an online platform than the usual. Okay.
Totoo po, Sir Herc. That's so true. And I mean, I think if anything to be thankful for the online platform is like Sir Luis earlier mentioned during our pre-briefing is that you've got a wider reach. And now my follow-up question to that, which Sir Luis already touched on a little bit a while ago, was Ma'am Pearl and Antonio and Bea, this is open to you guys as well. Like Ma'am Pearl, why do you think is PFA important in this day and age?
Okay, thank you, Becca. I just like to, before I answer that, I'd like to point out also a much more siguro. I think Sir Luis already mentioned a very good definition of PFA. But if I may offer a slightly simpler definition, this is based on New Zealand Red Cross. So they said that it's actually a form of psychosocial support. So just so we can more easily translate it in, let's say, an educational setting. Like if I have, for example, since ako pala, by the way, is in part of student affairs and services, a lot of the work that we do is very practical, like providing emotional support as well in the time of pandemic. So virtually, how do we provide that? So for instance, something as simple as providing food packs to students who were stranded here can be considered as emotional support. So in a way, I think at that time that the pandemic hit and nagkaroon ng lockdown, some of our students were, can we say, trapped here in the province. They cannot go home kasi nga nagkaroon na ng lockdown. So that part that we were providing, that emotional support, na wala na silang allowance. So the school had to step in. The student affairs office, I have to mention our very dynamic Dean of Student Affairs, Sir Sam Damayon, who was one of the first really persons who responded to help our students. So in a way, even if, shall we say, hindi naman talaga kami trained, hindi naman siya trained in psychological first aid, but we were actually providing some form of support. And I think that is what psychosocial support really is. So bakit siya importante ngayon? A lot of people really are distressed now. So you can ask anyone, especially nung time na like in March, many people were really uncertain as to whether hanggang kailan ba ito matatapos. Pagbalik natin sa eskwelahan, meron pa kaya tayong enrollees or meron pa kayong trabaho ang parents namin after this pandemic, or how long will this be? So basically, there were a lot of uncertainties. And psychological first aid, unlike counseling or debriefing, really provides much more simpler ways para mas matulungan mo yung mga tao at that particular time. Kasi agad, ang ina-address niya is the distress that you're experiencing. So I think it's very useful compared to counseling that may take several sessions, or debriefing that goes into anong nararamdaman mo, and sometimes it can become much more overwhelming kasi. So the psychological first aid element really highlights more on how we provide the basic services that you have now. It may be yung very basic talaga, like even pagkain, allowance, or ayuda, yung mga ganyan. It helps link you to the people who can provide you with that service. So yun.
Thank you, Ma'am Pearl. I think it really is amazing how teamwork and how amazing brains, not including mine, your brains, like come together. It drives us home to Sir Luis's point a while ago when he kind of told us the different parts and aspects of psychological first aid. And like what you said, Ma'am Pearl, I think it's safe to say that it's a holistic approach, like you like acknowledging that they have emotional distress because of a need, na wala kaming makakain, or I don't know, like we don't have allowance, and kind of addressing that, I do believe is, part of that psychological first aid, and that's really good. And Bea and Antonio, what do you guys think, like in terms of you guys or people that you may know, what do you think is the importance of knowing about psychological first aid?
For me, I didn't know much about PFA beforehand, but having heard all the great explanations and from different perspectives, it helped me understand that it's very important now because the pandemic is still happening. It's you know people need the help. They need help now, and sometimes it can't be done with long sessions, follow-up sessions. They need it now, and yeah, it's a good way also that it's holistic. So it doesn't have to be super in depth at the moment, but it can be something impactful. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Antonio. Bea, do you have any thoughts and opinions on that? I think Bea might be experiencing some technical issues at the moment. Bea, you're okay to have your opinion? Oh, awesome. All right, that's okay. We'll come back to you later. Thanks for letting us know. Bea is currently just having some connectivity issues, but yeah. Thanks for pointing it out, Antonio. It really is personally for me, like I didn't know anything about it, but to really hear from you guys, Mom Pearl, Sir Luis, and Sir Herc, really is very important. Hopefully other people will be inspired to maybe try and be a professional first aider. Oh no, psychological first aider, which leads us to the question: what makes a psychological first aid provider? Sir Herc?
Yeah, you need basic training, no? You cannot be an psychological first aider without having adequate training because there is a possibility that you might inflict more problem than help, no? So it is very important that you undergo basic training, no? It is really a must that you have the very important things that you need to know in terms of helping people in distress. I think that will be a very short explanation for that one.
I see, sir. Thank you, Sir Herc. Sir Luis, did you want to add anything to that? Like, what are there institutions or are there like that? Do we have to go like through university training and stuff like that? How do we become one if people are interested?
Okay, so building up on what Doc Herc said now, you need training for this, although it's not like you have a necessary prerequisite for it. So technically, anyone can provide PFA so long as they know the guidelines and they've had training for it. This is not something that only professionals can do. This is something, it's as what Namprel said, it's not counseling kasi it's not therapy. So it's really providing psychosocial support to an individual. So if anything, siguro a requirement would be the four things, which is good communication, preparing properly, knowing the three action principles, and knowing how to end your help if ever. In
Hmm.
terms of actually uh, licenses or anything like that, there's no necessary license for it. Just so long as you have the training, because of the fact, like what Doc Herc said, that you might actually cause more harm than good by saying, if you say the wrong thing or if you do something that's not in the guidelines.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sir Luis. Mom Pearl, have you got any thoughts on that? Like on not necessarily how to become one, but what do you think are the risks and rewards that come with being a psychological first aid provider?
Okay. As may I just add in also on what they said? Indeed, that while anyone providing emotional support is actually somehow applying PFA, but here in the Philippines, you actually have to be certified. So you have to get appropriate training for that so that you're sure that your practice is safe for your clients. So what makes a PFA provider? So ideally, definitely, if you are providing emotional support, ikaw mismo kailangang magaling ka mag-handle ng sarili mong stress. So the rewards there are that part that you know that you also have your own crisis at the moment, but somehow you are still able to share and help other people amidst the crisis that you are experiencing. So that part, that is actually very rewarding, isn't it? Being able to help even ikaw may pinagdadaanan ka. The risks definitely are, since currently you are in crisis, you can be overwhelmed. Tao ka rin naman. So very important talaga, and this is part of the training, I think, of PFA providers, is they have to manage, they have to be very good with self-care also. So I think some can have compassion fatigue. That part na masyado ka ng compassionate, masyado ng gustong-gusto mong ibuhos ang buong buhay mo para matulungan ng tao, pero to the point na you're already hurting your own well-being. So I think that's one of the risks. So especially in times na you know that in that particular situation, wala na ibang pwedeng tumulong kundi ikaw. So what happens is you are forced to give more of yourself, much more than yung dapat mo sanang ibigay kasi nawawala na rin yung para sa'yo. So I think those are some of the risks, at the same time rewards. But at the end of the day, people go into it because they know na kailangan, especially here in the Philippines. I think kokonti pa rin ang PFA providers natin, more so yung mga certified. So by the way, for everyone's information, I think the Psychological Association of the Philippines is offering training on this, and I think so, tama po ba, Sir Herc and Sir Luis? Baka they are able to much more give information about how to become a provider of PFA.
Thank you, Ma'am Pearl. Sige po, sorry, Sir Herc, you're gonna say something.
Yeah, in our part, usually DOH provides training din naman. Usually. And CMH, they provide training.
Okay. That's good to know po. I actually just want to drive home one of the good points that you guys made. Like, one of the things that Sir Luis mentioned was the fourth one was you knowing when to stop. I think that also kind of sums up what Ma'am Pearl said about self-care, like knowing what you need first. Like, I don't know, it might be a silly analogy, but you know how, like, pag nasa airplane ka, when you go into a flight, not these days, but when you go into a flight, sinasabi nila, before you help another person, you have to help yourself with the mask and the oxygen in case of emergency. So I think that really applies to our topic as well. Ano po, na we have to make sure na if we are interested, or we want to engage in helping others in these trying times, we have to make sure that we know our boundaries and we have self-care capacity as well. So thank you po for your answers, sirs and ma'am. We would move on to our next last question for this topic. Do you think that the age of the PFA provider can potentially boost or lessen the effectiveness of psychosocial support? Ma'am Pearl?
For me, I don't think so, because providing emotional support isn't really dependent on age. So some PFA providers or even counselors or psychologists also have their own expertise with regards special populations that they work with. For example, a lot of my experience is mostly with adolescents and young adults, but I know of a psychologist whose experience is more with the elderly. So he is trained in PFA, and he prefers that his work is much more with the elderly. And then I know of someone who is way older than the both of us, whose work is mainly with children. So I think the effectiveness really is dependent on the experience that you have in working with specific populations.
Thank you, Ma'am Pearl. So I wanna get like an opinion from Bea as well. Like, so if, say for example, at one point in your life you need to access psychological first aid, do you think you would prefer someone much older than you or around the same age as you? Do you think their effectiveness might be affected by their age?
Yeah, sorry, I got disconnected a while ago, so I was
That's okay.
disconnected
That's
from
okay.
the meeting. But I guess to answer your question, Rebecca, it would be for me. I think it would be more comfortable for me to have a psychological first aider siguro within my age range, or someone who's like a motherly figure. Siguro it would be very helpful for that age range, kasi people who would be the same age as me would be who I would be able to relate to them more, and would be have a comfortable feeling that I would be able to share more of my feelings, what are my real feelings to them. And at the same time, for motherly figures or people who are at the same age as siguro mothers po, it would be very helpful din po, because I would be able to feel safe and comfortable. Parang have a safe space po where I can share my thoughts, my feelings, and what I'm really going through with all that's been happening with me for in terms of my mental health.
Awesome. Thank you, Bea. Thank you for your thoughts on that. And before we move on to the next topic, once again, thank you so much po sa ating panelists for the work that you do in your each of your industries. And thank you for your time tonight. I would just like to say hello to everyone who are watching us on the live stream. The last update I got was that we're around 100 plus. Just wanted to shout out to one of our supporters and our feature in our second issue of Novice, Ate Violet. Hello po. And to our panelists, please feel free to say hi to all our listeners tonight. Hi, everyone. So our next topic will be about psychological resilience in the time of a pandemic. So as we all know, Filipinos are known for being resolute and steadfast in facing challenges, a sign of strong psychological resilience. But is there any limitation to this? And in what circumstances will the limits of our psychological resilience manifest? So, Sir Luis, what are your thoughts on this character or this trait that we're so well known for, our resilience, and the limitations if there are? And
Yes, yes. So you would often hear about this portrayed in the media, right? Or wherever else that Filipinos are very much known for their resilience. But just because we are known for it, or just because we have a higher tendency for it, doesn't mean that we're immune to feeling down, right? So of course there's a limitation to this, and everyone has a breaking point. Some sooner than others, and some later. So let's take, for example, the example of our frontliners. So how many months have they been going through this pandemic at an almost nonstop pace? So these healthcare workers are some of our most resilient individuals that at least I know of. But being extremely resilient doesn't mean that you are invincible. So it's no wonder that earlier today, the PCP held a session asking for a brief respite in the form of the ECQ, of a reinstatement of the ECQ.
thank you, Sir Luis. Sir Herc, what are your thoughts on our well-known trait of being happy and jolly in the face of challenges, and the so-called resilience that we have? And is there any sign that we're reaching our breaking point, our limitations?
Actually, when you talk about resiliency, Filipinos are very well known with that. Just like what Sir Luis said earlier, no. Unfortunately, in this time of the pandemic, no, there are things that are beyond our control, no. There are things that are basically inevitable, no. Particularly, Filipinos by nature are industrious, no. We are hardworking individuals. However, there are a lot of individuals who lost their work due to work restrictions. So usually this is one of the triggers, no, that cause distress during this pandemic, no, the work restrictions. This is one of the common problems, no, particularly the jeepney drivers who are known as really masipag, no. But due to the restrictions of the lockdown, they are helpless. It reached the point that they are already begging alms in the street. So that is a classic example that usually, we have to look at these things as well, no? Particularly, no?
Totoo, Sir Herc, I agree. Ma'am Pearl, what are your thoughts on resilience, and how it actually affects our view of our fellow Filipinos when they are showing signs of being overwhelmed and, oh, you're not so resilient, or things like that?
Okay. So indeed, Filipinos are generally resilient compared to other nationalities. But I'd like to point out it's not really a limit, but I think it's more of the dark side of resilience. So if you are overly resilient, if there is such a thing as being overly resilient, there's this tendency to just be, how do I say it? That you are more likely to decide not to do something about your situation. Na para bang, okay, anyway, resilient ako, pabayaan ko na that I'm not given help from other people kasi kaya ko naman to. So that part that you settle for less in that particular situation. So, and I think some Filipinos have that tendency that you do not seek help because kinakaya mo pa. So I think that's one main point that may be considered as somehow kapag you feel like masyadong kinakaya mo yung mga problema mo, there's a tendency that you no longer seek help, you just settle for whatever is available.
Thank you, Ma'am Pearl. Totoo, like this it's such a complex thing. Like it's got two faces, I guess, if you may say, like the bright side and the dark side, like you said, Ma'am Pearl, na. And like Sir Herc said, no, like we think of people of us, our workforce being so industrious, masipag, and working here in Australia, I know we have that identity sort of now. Oh, we're always happy, we can face whatever, which is great. But like what Ma'am Pearl said, sometimes we have to acknowledge, I guess, that we also get tired and we also get affected by what's happening, which leads us to the next question, which I'll directly like ask Bea to answer. So do you think people, particularly in the government, I think is experiencing some connectivity issues, but I'll address it to anyone, to all of our panelists. Do you think people, particularly the government, should acknowledge that Filipinos can also be desolate, especially during this time? Antonia, ikaw, what do you think ba? Sorry, we'll come back to you, Bea.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that it is the responsibility of the government. It's their job to provide aid and care, especially at at a time that the people need it. And going back to it's very good. And it feels good seeing stories and people talk about Filipinos being resilient, but we also have to understand and ask ourselves, what are the circumstances causing these difficulties? It's not everyone gets to be resilient and gets to succeed or thrive because of these negative circumstances, but you have to address and ask and demand better to alleviate the need to be super resilient.
I agree. Yes, that is so true. Just because the Filipino people are resilient doesn't mean, like Ma'am Pearl said, we should just keep taking it. That we should just stick it out. Like we also need to acknowledge, just because we can take it doesn't mean we just need to take it. Like we need to make some changes. Bea, what do you think about this? Like, I'll go back to the question. Do you think people, particularly the government, should acknowledge that Filipinos can also be desolate, especially during this time?
Yeah, it's very important that the government also addresses how we can how we're mentally doing, especially during this time. Because when we're talking about resiliency, we're not only talking about being very strong, being always ready to rise up from any calamity and any hardship there is, because there is a tendency that resiliency can be abused, especially here in our country. So it's very important that we also get transparency and openness from the government for us to be able to be more resilient, and I guess develop more our resiliency in time of this pandemic.
Thank you, Bea. That's so true. I think, and to drive home that point, I think part of resilience is knowing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ma'am Pearl, Sir Luis, and Sir Herc. Is right to say that I think part of resilience is being able to say and being able to know and say that, okay, I need help. Okay, I need to pause. Like I feel like personally, I feel like it takes a lot of courage as well to say that I'm not okay at the moment. I can't do it at the moment. I can't stick it out at the moment. You know, is it safe to say that, or that's a completely different viewpoint?
I think I'll let our psychologists answer that.
Sige po, Ma'am Pearl.
Well, I guess if I may, well, resilience in its definition is the ability to bounce back to from a situation or an adversity that you've faced. So, if seeking help, professional help, or help from other people is what helps you bounce back, it's part of resilience. Yeah, it's not necessarily resilience itself, but it could be a part of the process of bouncing back.
Thank you, Sir Luis. That I really like that. Sir Herc, did you want to add something to that?
Actually, with his response, Sir Luis, actually it's a very good response, no? But I would also like to add coping, no? Coping is very important in terms of resiliency, no? You cannot deny the fact that when you have adequate coping skills or adaptive coping skills, most likely resilience will be an easier thing to achieve, especially in times of crisis, no? Okay. So coping, so maybe if asking professional help is one way of your coping in terms of this pandemic, most likely it will help you to become more resilient later on. Usually they are interconnected.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answers, and that's really good to know. Like that it helps you. I really like what you guys said about part of your definition of resilience is being able to bounce back. So when I mean for me, like taking it literally, if you're having to bounce back, then that means you fell. So like I think I just want to point it out to our viewers an encouragement. I think there is an encouragement in that statement that it's fine when we fall. It matters that we get up each time. So and seeking the help that we need, like Sir Luis and Sir Herc said, if part of that is seeking help, then go for it. And that is not a sign of weakness, if I may say that. Awesome. Thank you so much. And now we move on to our next topic, which is the art of sublimation and how to turn your anxiety into art. So, in your opinion, do you think that sublimation is part of creative in art? Do you think creative? So, sorry. In your opinion, do you think that sublimation as part of creative and artistic expression is a good thing? Antonio, what do you think about that? So, being our resident artist in our panel tonight, do you think it's a good thing to use art?
I'd just like to begin with explaining or giving a quick definition of sublimation. And sublimation is a defense mechanism where socially unacceptable or unwanted desires, thoughts, emotions are transformed into something socially acceptable. And usually there are things that can benefit our lives in the long run. And in terms of creating art or in any medium, could be music, could be writing, could be anything you want, is a good example of sublimating because it not just gives you an outlet, but also lets you, um, I guess, understand and acknowledge, those thoughts and feelings and emotions. So it's not just bottled up inside the whole time.
Thank you, Antonio. So then, thank you for defining that. So then, would you say that sublimation as part of creative and artistic expression is a good thing in itself?
Mm, in a way, yeah, I think it's a good thing because lots of creatives, they create because they want an outlet or a way to express themselves or to say things that maybe they don't know how to say with words or uh, they feel would be judged if they say it out loud. It gives them another voice or another medium, another way to express. And also in terms of productivity, it can also help in terms of having that outlet so you can have a specific time and place to express what you want or what you can't and then be able to get back to work on something else. But also on the flip side, as an artist, sometimes it can be mm, risky or to be too reliant on sublimation. For example, if you can only make art because you're feeling bad or sad or all these negative emotions, and sometimes from personal experience and with friends of mine, sometimes you have a difficult time creating because you're not used to feeling those things anymore. So I think you have to be aware and acknowledge what exactly was sublimating, and maybe yeah, being able to create art helps a lot in that way. Like it gives you an ability to understand and say that okay, I am feeling these things and it's normal, it's fine. You know, these are emotions and human beings all we have to experience these emotions, and it's not like something
Yeah,
we shouldn't.
thanks, Antonio. I guess like just to reiterate what Antonio was trying to say, that it is good, but also there needs to be a balance. Am I correct? Is that what you're trying to say? Like we shouldn't just.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to be an outlet, but like as an artist, your perspective is that that shouldn't just be our way of. Um, that shouldn't just be your inspiration in creating art. That's a really good point to make. Bea, what are your thoughts about sublimation and like in your experience with, working with peers and mental health? What do you think about it?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Rebecca. I think it's a good coping mechanism, I guess. It's different for people. It depends on which defense mechanisms or which coping mechanisms really work for you or doesn't work for you. So you have to really know yourself first, or you understand yourself first before deciding which coping mechanism is good for you, or deciding in which things you would resort to if you're feeling you're having negative feelings or you're struggling with your mental health. It really depends on really knowing yourself, because some coping mechanisms might work for you, but it might not work for other people. So it's really best to know yourself first before you decide which coping mechanism would really be helpful for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Bea. I think yeah, that also comes down to knowing what we need and having the ability to point that out, which leads us to a question that we sort of intentionally skipped from the part two, where the question was originally, what are different ways we can manifest resilience during a stressful situation? Which I think we kind of slightly touched on when Sir Luis and Sir Herc were talking about, what does resilience really mean and what does it take to have resilience? So I might tweak that question a little bit in relation to sublimation, Sir Herc and Sir Luis and Mumpril. So what are different ways can we, express our struggles, our anxiety and any emotional challenges that we're facing, and not necessarily manifest resilience, but kind of how to deal with it when we're going through it, aside from sublimation. Sir Luis.
All right. So, sorry, could you repeat the last part of the question
Yeah,
so I
so,
could get it?
sure. Sorry, I kept on going. So aside from sublimation, Sir Luis, what are other ways for people, for both young adults and young at heart, and teenagers who are facing emotional challenges? What are ways that they can tackle those challenges, emotional
Mm.
challenges?
Well, as a psychologist, I'm kind of inclined to say that typically going for counseling or therapy is a very good way to release all that pent up anxiety or things that you cannot handle on your own, right? But without needing to rely on someone else, I guess it would have to be your hobbies. So as Sir Herc mentioned a while ago, right? It's about positive coping, right? There's two kinds of coping that you can do, positive and negative. So the kinds of positive coping mechanisms are, let's say, for example, doing your hobbies, but not too much or not trying to make it into like a job that's that you're pressured to do, right? So you want it to be something that relaxes you. Physical exercise is definitely a very good way to release emotions or build up. So your body sweating it out as well will help you have a clearer mind, right? So there's a bit of science into that. I think I'm not really too much of a fan of telling people what to do. Specifically when I have clients or when I talk to people, it's more about me understanding what is it that they want to do, and then how can they release things that are built up within them into the things that they like to do, right? So pouring their time, their energy, their emotions into it, right? So it really depends on the person, right? On what they like, on what they want to do. Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Luis. I think that's really important what you said, and I just want to echo it. Na I think, guys, if anyone's looking for a psychologist, that's a good sign of psychologist asking you, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? And instead of, like sort of putting you in a box and say, well, this is what you have to achieve, kind of thing. Whereas Sir Luis was pointing out, I want to know what you want to do and not tell you what you should do. So that's really good. And like relaxing, finding things that you love, like Sir Louis said. Mom Pearl, Sir Herc, what are your thoughts and suggestions on ways that we can deal with stress and anxiety caused by not just by COVID-19, but pretty much everything else that's going on in our lives, which I think a lot is going on in a lot of people's lives.
Well, actually allowing the client to weigh their options, no? How do they cope with their previous problems, no? Try to reflect on the things that they really wanted to do, no? Future plans, etc., no? Because there's no such thing as a one size fits all, no? So most likely the individual has the capacity to resolve the problem that is within themselves, no? More often than not, no? If you have to facilitate, you just have to guide them because usually the answer is within themselves usually. I think that will be the short response to that.
Thank you, Sir Herc. Mom Pearl, did you want to add something to that?
Right. I think it's pretty much what our two psychologists already mentioned. So it's really more on drawing from the client's strengths and autonomy. So allowing the person really to discover what works for him or her. So indeed, usually with professionals, it's really that. So we cannot really say immediately or advise the person what to do, but really ask first what works for them before and why isn't it working it now, and how what changes do they need to make it better and work for them again.
I see. Thank you, Mom Pearl. Thea, did you want to add your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. For my friends who are asking me, because they know I'm a mental health advocate. So for my friends who are asking me, what coping mechanisms will work for them? What can they do to cope with this pandemic? I always tell them. I always ask them first, what would be I think the best hobbies would be that they would like to do before recommending something to them, because I have realized during this quarantine that a lot of people who are asking me what can they do to be able to cope with the pandemic and everything, it's always really with what Sir Herb said and what Sir Louis said. It's really different for each person. There's no really a one size that fits all, because Netflix can work for my sister, but Netflix doesn't work for me because it gives me a time to just overthink more, to just stare at the screen blankly and just overthink while staring at the screen. So it's very different for each person, that you have to understand yourself well. You have to know yourself well to know what are your hobbies, what are the things that you like to do, what are the things that have worked for you. It can also be possible that the things that have worked for you in the past doesn't work for you now, and that's okay. That's okay to change coping mechanisms. It's okay to say that what worked for you before doesn't work for you anymore. It's okay to discover new things that excite you, and it's really okay to be able to find a new passion while in this quarantine. So there's baking. I have already seen so many banana breads online, and there's art, and of course there's other things, that anything that interests you and provides you a really good outlet, or gives you a really helpful coping mechanism, not just during pandemic, but even before and after, hopefully soon, but even after. So you should really be able to understand yourself better. You should be able to know yourself better and to understand what are the coping mechanisms that work for you before you give advices to other people. Yeah, that's for my opinion.
Thanks, Bea. I just want to go back to Antonio for this one. So you did mention a while ago, like the definition of sublimation and how it's pretty much like you're an outlet using that, whatever that person's going through, and creating something out of that. So as a fellow artist, like what would you say to other people, to young people and artists as well, and how would you encourage them to deal with, let's say, the emotional challenges that they're facing, other than sublimation? How do you personally like use art as a way to deal with things?
Well, I guess I can on another, somewhat on off tangent, but being able to use art beyond just yourself, being able to create art, to aid other people. I can, for example, being able to join um, donation drive, being able to donate art to, aid other people is a big way to help. And also a huge thing now, especially, is being able to inform people with art. It's not just expressing yourself, but also being able to have that information about what's going on now, how we can get better, how we can improve, and being able to also amplify the voices of those who don't have the means or who have a difficult time but can't say it. So, because without them being able to say that they need help, they can't get the help. I think it's important to also be aware of and look outside of your own bubble in that kind of way. Because if you are too hyper focused on yourself sometimes, especially now where community is so important, it can be kind of negative. You can overthink about yourself, about everything you're going through. And yeah, it's good, especially now, to have a sense of community despite not being physically there, and also having different levels of conversation about what you're making as an artist, the other artists, um, or maybe getting people into art, or being able to explain your art, or do something completely new.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Antonio. Once again, thank you so much to our panelists. I wish we have more time to kind of put out our views and thoughts, but we have to move on to our question and answers. And tonight we've kind of got a few. So we've got a few questions from our viewers tonight, which I'll be asking you guys. And feel free to give a thing or two about your thoughts to answer their questions briefly. But before we move on to that, once again, I would like to thank all of you, all the viewers, everyone who's made this this webcast possible. Hopefully, we've shared some meaningful insights to you guys. Thank you, Antonio, Ma'am Pearl, Bea, Sir Herc, Sir Luis. Thank you so much for your time. I know we're not done yet with the Q&A, but I just really want to thank you for your insights. And personally, it's really opened my eyes as well. So thank you for being willing to extend. I know we've gone over time, but thank you for staying with us. We have some really interesting questions in here that I will start with now. I would also like to encourage everyone to please check out our second issue of Novice magazine. It is filled with 300 plus pages of amazing artwork from a lot of local artists who are just, like Antonio said, are trying to make a change and using this platform to inform and not just look inside their bubble. So head on to noviceph.com and pre-order a copy. We would also like to thank our sponsors. Thank you, Doc KD Cadabona, Ma'am Pearl Viernes Ludan, Chantal Tayaban, Rosel Batara, and Cult of the Self for the poster. And we also have social media accounts. And also to our panelists, later on, I'll give you a chance to announce your social media accounts or whatever it is that you want to plug. I'll give you a chance for that. And so we'll move on to our questions for the night from our viewers. So the first one we have is to to our organizers of the webcast. Did this person allow us to broadcast his name, or should I just say the first name? The question. Oh, he's happy to. I think he's happy to broadcast it. He says from our comments, so I guess it's public. So from Mark Lester Calderon Pomeda, it says, "Good evening po. I was bullied because of my look. Even during this pandemic, nakakaranas pa rin po ako ng bullying. I would like to ask kung papaano ko po ma-handle yung situation despite yung nararanasan kong depression and anxiety din po. Thank you and God bless." Anyone, it's open for answering.
I guess I'll put my 2 cents on it. It's actually that's quite a bit of a conundrum. There's a lot of factors playing there. So the bullying aspect, the aspect of the physical appearance, and them disclaiming that they have depression or anxiety, right? So there's no real quick way to answer this, right? It's really a process that you'll have to go through. But I guess the siguro for the sake of giving a very brief answer, it would be more like we can't control what other people are thinking of us, but we can control how we react or respond to it. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, and that um, I'm not trying to downplay whatever this individual is going through, but in the end, that's probably something that they have to realize that um, your worth is really based on how you view yourself and not how others view you.
Thank you, Sir Luis. I'll give the. Oh, sorry. Was someone going to answer? No. Okay. I'll move on to the next question. What are the long-term psychological effects of the pandemic to children, and how can parents help to address them? It's a question from Frenyo. So, Mom Pearl, I think I'll give this to you because you've worked with young adults and with children, as you said.
Right. I don't think I have sufficient information already about long-term psychological effects of the pandemic. However, I've had being a mother also, and hearing stories from parents as well. I think one of the major things that parents can do to assist their children is to help maintain some sort of normalcy within the household. So that part that there remains to be routine within the household is very important for children, because isn't it that one of the major things that causes stress or distress is really uncertainty. So as a parent, it's very important that you mention to children that yes, we are currently in a situation. So depending on the developmental level, so kung gaano niya maiintindihan as to what a pandemic is. I have an elementary child and I have 2 teenagers. So more or less, they're aware of what a pandemic is and what it entails if they go out. So they understand that. So, but for younger children, they might not know what it is. So it has to be discussed to them at that level. So again, I would like to highlight more of that sense of normalcy, that life goes on, that we can do fun things here. So very important really for the parents to put in effort as well within the means that they have. I know mahirap ito for many parents, especially for those who are financially challenged still, to maintain some sort of normalcy. But as we said, we are resilient. So we have resources. We have our own resources to maintain a source of normalcy within the household.
Thank you, Mom Pearl. And now we move on to our next question. I think our tech people will flash it. All right. I think I'll throw this to Antonio. Is there any difference between sublimation and art therapy? And to anyone on the panel as well. Antonio, would you like to put in your 2 cents?
Art therapy involved in a way sublimation. So that yeah, but art therapy itself is therapy session with usually a qualified professional art therapist that gives you the ability and space to create and to both express yourself and be in a judgment-free zone to create and also have that guidance in terms of what you can do and like maybe if you want to express yourself or go beyond what you're making it can be done with the professional to explore different mediums and yeah all of these different things so art therapy can be a lot of things and yeah sublimation itself is part of that.
Yeah, but then not necessarily sublimation is not necessarily art therapy. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, awesome. I think we're getting a nod from our resident psychologist. So we're good with that. So we move on to our next question. It's from Neo Ray. How does one consistently apply their chosen coping mechanism in resolving or addressing their triggers? Sir Herc, would you like to put in your thoughts?
So from the question itself is how does one consistently apply their chosen coping mechanism in resolving or addressing their triggers? When you talk about coping, no, it's basically within the individual's capacity. So it is within the individual wherein how committed the individual in utilizing this particular coping mechanism. If the individual is usually not committed in applying, for example, an adaptive coping mechanism, most likely the effort will be ineffective later on. So it's usually you have to help yourself when you're utilizing a coping mechanism. No, so if you think that you cannot help yourself, most likely you might need seek professional help. But usually under normal circumstances, it's basically within the individual's capacity or commitment on what particular coping style or coping technique will he or she utilize. No.
I see. And I think Bea mentioned that a while ago as well, didn't you, na, about like it depends on you, like what coping mechanisms you use. And at one point it might, because I think what he's asking is like how do you consistently apply it? Well, like Sir Herc said, depends on you. Like if it works at one point and it doesn't work at one point, doesn't mean you have to say, well, I have to be consistent with my coping mechanism. I have to stick with this, you know, like if it's not working at the moment and worked in the past, like Bea said and like Sir Herc said, look, it's fine. It's fine if it doesn't work at the moment. It's fine if at this point you need professional help, then please by all means get the help that you need. So we move on to our next question. Thank you, Neo Ray. Thanks to all the ones who have posted their questions. I think will this be our last or second to the last question? All right, this one's anonymous. It says, if someone opened up that they have suicidal, this is our second to the last question, by the way. If someone opened up that they have suicidal thoughts during this time of the pandemic, how do you respond to that? Sir Luis, how do we, like, I know like as a professional, you would know how to respond to that. May we ask just us average people, like how would we respond to if someone opened to us and said that?
All right. So typically when an individual opens up to another person that they have suicidal thoughts, this is oftentimes a cry of help already. And that it depends on how far along they are. So we classify it depending on how severe or how far they are into these thoughts, right? Is it just the first time they thought about it? Do they consistently think about it? Do they have plans to go through with it, right? So it depends on on the answers to those questions on what we do. So maybe we can give a general answer. So the first thing you should do is when they start talking to you about it, don't shut them out. Don't change the topic. Stay on the topic. It's because they're approaching you with this question and with this topic that they want help, that they want you to address it. So you don't turn them away. You stay on the topic and you keep talking about it. Now, what about if they're a little more along the lines now of it's a consistent thought, no, that they cannot control? It's an obtrusive thought. That's what we call it. or it's something that they cannot get out of their mind. Uh, One is to make sure that they always have access to social supports. So again, talking it out is really all that you can do. You can't really force them um, to get better by telling them, no, don't think of that. No, don't think of it again. No, you have to be open to them and to listen to them. The only time that you actually have to proactively do something is towards the latter part wherein they have plans to do it. So for us, whenever we have sessions and then the individual is already at risk, is what we call it, at risk of self-harm, suicide, uh, that's when you have to intervene. Like they have a set date, they have a set plan on how they're going to do it. You have to intervene, and those are the times that you have to bring them in to maybe an emergency room for help so that they could be monitored and they could be given
Mhm.
the help that they need, whether it be through medications to help calm them down at that moment,
Mhm.
or maybe a resident psychologist there or psychiatrist that could help talk them out of it or help them uh, deal with the situation at hand. So there's a variety of answers. It's not uh, typically in psych. There's no one answer for all kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Luis. That's very helpful that you said. I think one thing that I want to highlight is that you said don't shut their mouths. If they came to you, for the person who asked this question, if they came to you and they were willing to open up and say, look, this is what I'm thinking. Like don't I think as an average person, that's one thing we can do is to listen emphatically. And because this is such an important question, our organizers and our editors were thinking that we should give all our panelists a chance to answer this question. Like in all your different dealings, I'm sure you will have your own suggestions as well. So I'll give the next chance to Mom Pearl.
Okay. I'd like to answer this in relation to if you were answering this, or if this was asked to someone without background, not being a professional, so not being a mental health first responder, or a psychologist or counselor. So if let's say here's a student and may isa siyang classmate who opened up that he has suicidal thoughts, what should this student do? Okay, so normally, if students open up to another person, as Sir Luis pointed out, um, they are also quite distressed at hindi rin nila alam kung paano nga to handle that situation. So I normally tell students that if someone opened up to them that they have these thoughts, it's very important that they facilitate help-seeking behaviors for this person. Kasi mahirap yung part na sasarilihin nung student yung distress of having someone help someone not commit suicide. So it's very important that that person links the person thinking of suicide or even planning it. So depending, as Sir Luis mentioned, depending on gaano kalayo na yung kanyang plans about suicide or thoughts pa lang siya, it's very important to make the necessary link to a specialist who can assist that person. So that help-seeking behavior has to be there immediately. So it's very critical really that most people or all people know that kapag merong nagsabi na nag-iisip siya ng suicide, since it's a cry for help, as our psychologist mentioned, Sir Luis mentioned, kailangang hanapin mo yung way na matulungan mo siya at mai-connect mo siya sa taong pinaka makakatulong sa kanya. And if I may, really the first thing that has to be done is to think of the safety of the person. If this person currently is thinking of suicide, or at the time na inopen up niya sa'yo, sinabi na niya yung plan, you have to make sure you have to ensure safety of that person. So normally I would tell students, or for example, if I was doing a session with our peer counselors, I immediately will tell them, you have to ensure na may kasama siya dun sa bahay. So is there a way to reach out to that person immediately? Makausap mo siya agad. Sino ang kasama niya sa bahay? So those things have to be done already by the person kung kanino nag-open up yung taong thinking or planning to commit suicide.
Thank you, Ma'am Pearl. Sir Herc?
Yeah, actually, when you talk about suicide kasi or suicidal thoughts, it's usually a red flag, no? And usually it cannot be easily handled by normal or individuals na who doesn't have a background in the field of psychology or other behavioral sciences. So, as a professional, I would suggest the referral system, no? It is not a sign of weakness if you would refer a person to a professional. It is the best thing to do in order to assess the individual properly and to provide much better or proper interventions. No, just like what the earlier panelists already said, tama naman yung mga sinabi nila. But at the end of the day, we have to look, are we competent enough to help this individual? Are we doing more help or are we doing more harm? No? So I think the best thing that we can do if we are not capable of helping the individual is to refer them to someone who can help them. I think that will be the best course of action.
Thank you, Sir Herc. Bea, have you experienced anything similar? How did you deal with it, if yes, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of daunting when you receive messages like that, or parang when someone reaches out to you tapos ganyan yung message about suicidal thoughts. Of course, if you have no experience or little experience with regards to it, sobrang nakakapanik. Siguro my first tip, sharing from experience, would be not to panic yourself. Na when someone opens up to you, huwag kang magpapanik. Don't show them na super nagpapanik ka, huwag mo silang sisigawan. And it's very important that you listen to them, not to reply, but listen to them intently, na parang to understand what they're going through, what they're feeling. Hindi yung parang magle-listen ka lang, tas i-interrupt mo sila ng interrupt para makapag-reply ka. But very important yung sinabi ni Ma'am Pearl, that you have to, if malayo kang nakatira to them, and of course, even during this pandemic na hindi natin mapupuntahan yung certain person, or hindi natin, sometimes we can't even call that person kasi syempre, sometimes may tendency sila not to answer their phones or whatever when they have already sent you a message telling their plans and everything. So very important that you have a contact person siguro sa house nila, or a contact person sa building nila, siguro security guards or such, lalo na if they tell you na kunyari nasan silang lugar na to, anong time nila gagawin. It's very important that you connect them with the right people who can help them. So either family members, or kung sino yung mga pwedeng guard sa condo if they're living alone, or of course yung very helpful talaga would be the mental health professionals, would be to a psychologist, or if hindi available at that time, pwedeng you connect them to a crisis hotline or a suicide hotline, to be able to help them more, to be able to talk to them, para at least naka-follow up, nakakausap sila on how they're doing at that moment. So pwede ring mapigilan. So I think yun yung pwede kong ma-contribute na thoughts.
Thank you, Bea. Antonio, have you got any thoughts or experiences or, suggestions to share?
Well, it was very well explained with all the professionals and all the different aspects. I think I just wanted to add maybe from experience, I guess, or like when you have a friend who comes out with that, that's a very important part, is the transition, or how you, I guess, refer them to a professional. You have to, I guess, tell them and be, I guess, clear about why you're doing that and how it can help them, instead of just doing it, quickly on the spot, without properly talking to them about it first. Also, but that also depends on how far they are and their circumstances. But like, being able to address to them why they might need that help is important too.
Thank you po sa inyong lahat. I know it's kind of it's sort of a really heartbreaking topic to talk about, but it's good that we're talking about it, because I guess the more people know, the more people acknowledge that it is a real thing, and that, in one way or another, we'll be able to help by listening, like you guys said, and by making sure that, are you safe at the moment? Where are you now? And like our psychologists and the rest of our panelists have said, connect them to professionals, connect them to people who who can truly help them. So that leads us to our next question. It's from Violet Paragliding. She said, I've had 3 cousins who committed suicide in the past 3 months. I'm so sorry to hear that, Ate Violet. They are all living up in the mountains, and the community has no chance for professional training at the moment. What is the psychological first aid that can be offered for members of the family of those who have passed on or died? I think our panelists are digesting the question. So I'll give 2 slots for answers. Sir Herc or Sir Luis, would you like to give your thoughts and suggestions?
Actually,
All right. Sorry,
sir.
sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Actually, I think the best way is to seek help usually from the LGUs, usually the local government units, if they are living in the mountains, no, so that they can send someone with professional knowledge in, or technically the skills to provide psychological first aid to the relatives, no, because they are usually in the stage of grief, no. So it is not an easy task for an individual who is not yet trained in this particular field, particularly if it is really in this situation, not 3 cousins committed suicide. So it's really quite not an easy task for a psychological first aider. So most likely, it is better to send someone with adequate experience, especially in dealing with this difficult. Actually, this is a difficult case, to be honest.
Truly, indeed.
If I could
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sir Luis.
add to what Sir Doc Herc was saying, it is a very difficult case. Assuming that the situation is that no one can get to them easily, and it's not and they would need help, no. So psychological first aid talaga is done kasi talaga as can be available immediately or even during the situation. So uh, the problem here would be who would conduct it, because I really don't suggest the family members to conduct it to one another per se, because
Multiple
uh,
hands.
yes, we want to avoid multiple relationships kind of thing, no. So there could be biases or there could be unresolved issues that might be brought up and all. Uh, but to answer the question, siguro, like what psychological first aid. So actually, if you would want to learn more about psychological first aid and to find out if they have an internet connection or if you have an internet connection, the World Health Organization actually provides an entire manual for it. It's also for people who are not necessarily professionals. You know, uh, so siguro this you could take a few of the themes right here. No, anyone can take those themes. So being present for the family members. You don't always have to say, it's psychological first aid isn't always about knowing what to say or saying the perfect thing. Sometimes just being there for them is enough help already. That's already a major help, not leaving them alone, no? Uh, another big aspect of psychological first aid is helping them secure their basic needs. So these individuals, I mean, 3 cousins, 3 family members who just committed suicide, that must be devastating for for any family.
Mhm.
And so maybe being able to help them secure their basic needs is something that you can help cross off on their list
Mhm.
so that they don't have to worry about that as much. See, it's as we were talking about, psychological first aid is about helping people get back up, by giving them a boost, by being there for them, by helping them address their basic needs. And as what Sir Herc already mentioned, it's connecting them to the proper channels. In this case, all the things that I said could be a band-aid solution, a very, very, very quick band-aid solution. Uh, but the best way that you could help them, and as I mentioned earlier, TFA has limitations, is to help introduce a professional that can help them eventually. So obviously, the sooner the better.
Yes.
Yes, the sooner the better. Although, of course, when we say that, we also have to take into consideration that grief is a part talaga of the process. So we don't rush them outside of the grieving period rin naman. So we allow them to feel the emotions that they're feeling because they have a right to it naman. So or else they won't be able to resolve it if you try to resolve it too quickly. So it might lead to unfinished business and all that. So yeah, all that plus what si Doc Perk has already said, connecting them to the LGU, that's a very, very good thing to consider. And maybe it's something that you want to talk to the LGUs about, no?
Thank you so much, Sir Doc Herc, Doc Luis. Thank you so much for your input. I know we have gone way over our time, so that's why I want to check with our panelists. There's still 2 questions left. Are you happy to go along with that? Um, once One is about handling stress in online classes, and one is about ECQ in Metro Manila. It's a related question to that. So are you guys all right? If not, please let us know. We are more than grateful for the time you've already spent with us.
Perfectly all right with me.
Thank you, Sir Luis. A thumbs up for everyone. Thank you, po. So we'll move on to our next question. This one, I'll just quickly refer to Ma'am Pearl. Ma'am Pearl, I'm sure you might be encountering this question a lot. How to handle academic stress in online classes? Go ahead, Ma'am.
Right. So during the time that we shifted to online learning, and it was the first time in our university to shifting to online learning, really, I received a lot of complaints from students and even teachers about their challenges in online classes. So how do we handle stress? Basically, this is still stress. So regardless of whether it's academic or not, it's still stress. So how we handle stress normally and what works for us, ganun din siya. So if, for example, if I'm academically stressed, I seek out people. So I chat my classmates. So ano nang ginagawa nyo ngayon? Hirap na hirap ako sa connectivity. So that part that you are using whatever resource that worked for you before in handling any kind of stress, you just translate it into academic work. So another important thing I noticed here is the importance of, again, help seeking. So if we didn't know that students had this difficulty, if hindi nila inilapit sa akin because I am the Associate Dean for Student Affairs. So it's very important that we get feedback about the kinds of stressors that students have. So I really make sure that we ask students, ano problema nyo every now and then. We're checking in on them. So is it really on connectivity or is it the tasks that is giving you stress? So that part, that there is a two-way process, I think helps manage the stress of the students. So it has to be made clear that you have to point out to your school as well the difficulties that you have so that they're appropriately addressed rather than ranting about them online. Hindi naman yan masusolusyonan if the school do not know what is causing you stress. So I think that's very important, that part, that you provide appropriate feedback, constructive feedback on how you can be assisted in this time. Kasi not only the students are stressed, teachers also are quite stressed, but we have to make it work. So there has to be a balance on how we ensure that quality learning continues and students are not too burdened with too much academic work. Okay, so yun.
Thank you, Ma'am Pearl. And I just remembered that Doc Herc is also a professorial lecturer. Sir, what would be your thoughts briefly on how students can handle academic stress in online classes?
Actually, it's more of a two-way communication usually between the academic management and usually the student councils usually. It's very important that they listen to the suggestions, usually they listen to the common problems. Now there will be some technical issues, there will be a lot of concerns along the way because this is usually the transition from online to from online platform from the traditional face to face. So it is really quite expected that there will be a lot of problems along the way. So it's very important that the communication lines are very open, either online, either via phone, or either through email, to address the concerns of the students, particularly if we're talking about the collegiate level and the graduate school level, because usually this is the common levels that are usually undergoing online classes right now. The basic education is not yet uh, on board with this.
Thank you, sir. So just to highlight the question, I think to answer this question to our viewer who asked this is to make sure that we're communicating what's causing those stresses and how we're handling it so that our universities and our teachers, will be able to assist us in how to handle it. And I guess this applies all the other questions that our panelists have mentioned earlier. Seek help if you need it. Find ways, find things that you love doing. Self-care. So moving on to our last question. Whew, finally, we got there. We had quite a few. So the last question is, what's their take on Villar's comments on the health professionals' request for reverting Metro Manila to ECQ that they should instead work hard? This question is open to everybody.
If I may, I'm actually a bit itching about that now. As a student,
Go for it, Sir Luis.
right?
Go ahead, sir. You're not part of the government.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, well, where do I start with that? Well, I think it was a crass statement, at the very least. That's what I would say. Um, how could you say, what was the line? Hindi na siguro pagbutihin nila trabaho nila. How could you say that to people who have already been doing their best tirelessly for the past few months, no? It's it shows a lack of empathy talaga, no? And as I mentioned, this goes back kasi to believing that resilience equals invulnerability or invincibility, so they aren't invincible. And why should we not listen to them? It's a health We are undergoing a health crisis. So why are we not listening to our health experts about this? And why are we focusing? Uh, I know it's not as easy as saying now, why are we focusing on the economy, But the priority on this matter is the health aspect. We are trying to save lives, and we are trying to help the people who save lives. Why would you not want to help that?
Thank you, Sir Luis, and I think I share with your very strong convictions on that comment. I'll direct this to Ma'am Pearl. What are your thoughts about this?
This is in Manila, so I don't think I can be able to relate on this. But it's the same. Like here in the province, we are back in MGCQ and would want na hindi muna. So I don't know if it's better that I refer this back to Sir Herc, who said that he belongs to the government.
Actually, yeah. Actually, this is a tricky one, no? Although I'm part of the government, no? But I think they should consider, no? They should consider this suggestion, no? Usually, once the health force is depleted, it will be inviting more trouble than the usual, no? But at the end of the day, it's still their call, no? We're just here to give our opinions, but I hope they should consider, no? Most likely the plea of our healthcare workers, no? Because they are the frontliners, eh. Once the frontline is depleted, most likely, it will invite more trouble later on. I think that will be my very short but meaningful take on this.
Thank you, Sir Herc. Thank you so much for being so game and so gracious and honest but respectful, and we understand that you are part of the government, and we really appreciate you giving your 2 cents about that. So with Antonio and Bea, any short comments on that 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 comment from our politician?
None on my end. Thank
No
you.
worries, Bea. Antonio. No? Yes.
None as well. It was very well
No
said
worries.
by all.
Thank you so much. All right, so that wraps up our panel discussion. Please, everyone, if you could give a virtual round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. And give yourself a round of applause to Ma'am Pearl, Sir Luis, Doc Herc, Antonio, and Bea. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners, viewers, were able to take home a thing or two from our discussion, from your from sharing your knowledge and experiences. So we would like to thank you guys so much. We can not thank you enough for gracing us with your presence and sharing your thoughts and opinions and suggestions, and both professional and personal as well. And before I turn this over to our ending, our last part of our show, Des and Del, will come back. I would like to give an opportunity to all our panelists to promote, or if you have social media accounts, or if you have advocacy or hotline or numbers that people can access or call to if they need help, please do so. I'll start with Sir Luis. Have you got any information or anything like that you want to share?
I think going with the theme of our entire talk, and going with the background as to why we're doing this, I would really want to implore people to go seek help if they need it. And I using the term "if they need it" is kind of hard because some people don't believe they need it, or they are not so open to it. But I do implore you to try to give it a shot. I know that there are quite a few organizations now who are providing free opportunities. I know that UST has one, like the Tamashan Mental Health Response. I know UP has one. I'm not sure of the others, but they are there for people to get help. And like as what Doc Herc said a while ago, like yung NC Bea about yung what do you call that again? Yung hotline for suicide, no? So yeah, we've had quite a few comments about, and even a question about suicide. So for those who are listening, no, try to give it a shot. Then we're always more than glad to help. We're always more than glad to help people who need it, naman.
Thank you, Sir Luis. Ma'am Pearl, is there any thing you want to promote or encourage others, or just any final words to our listeners for tonight?
Right. It's still on help seeking. So especially here in the province, some people have internet connectivity, but if you can, make sure that you connect with appropriate people. So I'd like to specifically promote our department because we are one of the few who has, I think, some enough qualifications to offer emotional support. So here in SMU's, or St. Mary's University's Department of Psychology and Human Services. So if there are students out there who are watching us now, so please make sure you reach out. Our guidance counselors have also been reaching out to you through your email, especially for our incoming freshmen. So please make sure that you reach out to, and also as well as Sir Luis mentioned, if you are still uncomfortable in talking to existing professionals or counselors in school, you can also avail of free online services. You just check in the internet and you will be given free emotional or psychosocial support. So in the same way, I'd like to promote the organization who helped me become a mental health first responder, mhfr.org. They're offering now online classes. So if you want to be one of us who offer, because we still need a lot of people to really help and respond, especially that the crisis is still here. So please reach out and go to mhfr.org and attend the training, be certified so that mas marami tayo, so we can help more people, especially now.
Thank you, Ma'am Pearl. Again, I'll read that. That's mhfr.org for everyone's reference. Antonio, anything you want to promote and final words as well to our viewers tonight?
Well, yeah, you can find me on my socials, Antonio Pastoriza, and also I guess I'd like to advise everyone or to learn about what's going on, how you can help, and knowing that learning is the first step to improving and helping yourself and others.
Thanks, Antonio. Bea, I'll go to you next. Anything you would like to promote or any advocacy, and then your final words to our viewers?
So just like what Sir Luis said, Ma'am Pearl said, please don't be afraid to seek help if you need to. Wag niyo sasarilihin yung problema niyo. Please reach out to your friends or your family. Just make sure that they have the capacity first to listen to you before you rant to them or tell your burdens to them. So it's better to ask them if okay ka lang, if okay lang ba ako mag-rant. And it would be also helpful that you do not self-diagnose. You just want to reiterate it. Kasi through my page, I've been receiving some messages na they've been self-diagnosing that they think they have anxiety, that they think they have depression, but there's so much more to the disorder than what a simple emotion can be. So please do not self-diagnose, and please reach out to seek professional help if you need to. So you may follow my page, your local mental health advocate, in Facebook for more information on mental health, and you can also visit Mind Reform on Facebook to give
I think.
Ayan, I think
Bea,
nawala ako, but
yeah,
I
would you be
think,
able to say that again?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. For the last part, you may also follow Mind Reform on Facebook. You may like their page. They host a website wherein you can type your certain emotion or mood, and then they will be able to provide you a vast resources of where you can seek professional help. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Bea. Before I go to Doc Herc for his final words to our viewers tonight, Pearl, just wanted to double check. One of our editors typed in, I think M for Mark, H for hotel, F for Fox.
Actually, mental health first response. So it's mental health first response. So MHFR. Okay.
.org. Kasi daw, they type the address daw, Ma'am Pearl, and hindi daw nila ma-open. So do we have to spell out mental health first response? Maybe they can just Google mental health first response?
Yes.
May
I get back to you? I'll check it out in a while.
No worries, ma'am. So yeah, that would be great po if you could connect with us, and then we'll post it on our page as well. So
here it is. I'm sorry, ito na. mhfirstresponse.org pala siya.
Okay, so MH, sorry, I say it differently. mhfirstresponse.org. Ayan, for our viewers. Yeah, please feel free to have a look. And Doc Herc, any hotlines po that we can plug or anything that you want to put out there, and final words for our viewers tonight po?
Yeah, I guess I would just like to plug NCMH Crisis Hotline. So hopefully it can help, no? Another thing for our audiences, no? Do not rely too much with Dr. Google, no? Okay, so it's better to seek professional help or ask professionals if you are experiencing something that is usually normal for you or usually something new about you, or maybe you're distressed, no? It's better to seek professional help rather than consulting Dr. Google and, just like Bea said earlier, self-diagnosing, no? So with that, I think that will be my short ano.
Thank you, Doc Herc. Sir, ano po yung hotline, sir? Para ma-plug po natin.
NCMH Crisis Hotline. You can look at it sa Facebook, makikita nyo naman yung page nila. NCMH Crisis Hotline. So madali naman siya makita. There's also certain number about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Doc Herc. Thank you po. Thank you so much. And have a lovely night po sa ating lahat. Antonio, Ma'am Pearl, Bea, Doc Herc, and Sir Luis. Thank you so much po for all your help, and it's priceless. Thank you, dear panelists. On behalf of Novice and all our editors and all our viewers, we really, really thank you, and we hope to collaborate with you in the future as well.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
And the entire Novice team.
No worries po. Thank you, guys. And with that, I'll turn it over to Des and Del for the final song. Before that, I just would like to encourage everyone to check out noviceph.org. We are still on our pre-order, and proceeds from this issue will fund the second round of the Volume Project, Braver Together, our initiative to help communities hit by the pandemic. And this is very important to us as well as we address some of our community's needs. So if it is possible for you, please do pre-order a copy now. We would like to thank our sponsors and partners for issue number 2. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to Doc KD Cadabona, Pearl Viernes Ludan, Chantal Tayaban, Rosel Batara, Cult of the Self for the poster. And please do check out our social media accounts. Our Facebook page. On Instagram, we're Novice Magazine PH, and Twitter, Novice Mag PH. And thank you so much. This has been an amazing experience for me. Again, this is Rebecca signing out and leaving you with Des and Del with their original song, Hinga. Have a nice night, everyone. See ya.
One, two, three, four. Mukha mo'y di na naman maipinta. Lumalaboy na naman bang yung kaluluwa sa gulo ng paligid? Huwag mong piliting hanapin, baka nakakalimutan mo lang huminga. Sasabayan kita, huminga. Huwag ka nang mahiya, napapagod na ba ang iyong mga mata? Nasisilaw sa makamundong hiwagang taglay ang paligid. Huwag mong pigilin ang nadarama. Halina't sasamahan kita huminga. Sasabayan kaya huminga. Di ka nag-iisa. Sasabayan kita huminga. Di ka na mag-iisa. Again, we're Des and Del, and ayun, check niyo po yung page namin if you want. Yun po yung bago naming original song, Hinga.
Thank you, Desindel. Thank you for sharing your talent with us.
Thank you po.
Have a nice night.